How's it going, folks? Welcome to Idiots versus Idiot. I am an idiot. I am the big man, and with me, as always, as my co-creator here, coming from somewhere in the bowels of the United States of America.
I'm north of Dallas. That's my official statement.
I guarantee you that it's in the basement of his great-grandmother's house somewhere.
So that's actually true, yeah. We don't even have basements in Texas. That's how old my great-grandmother's house is.
I don't know what episode we're on, but if this is your first time here, as great idiots, we think the fact that we talk about business, we talk about technology, we talk about pretty much anything that we really enjoy, but we come from it from the perspective that all of us, including you, the listener, are idiots. We're all here to learn, so please take everything that we say with a grain of salt, because Danny primarily does not know what he's talking about, and that's how the show works.
Well, I just got one question for you before we get rolling here. Is the rodeo in town?
No. You know, as
you
well
just
as
got
I
jealous
do.
that
I grew up on a farm outside of Dallas, Texas.
That's true.
And and I'll tell you what, being
you
in
just
Austin,
got jealous that I moved my studio into my hat room.
That is
that
true.
I have a hat room.
100%. That is true.
That's all. That's what I thought.
But it's really important. When I was putting the hat on, my wife said, make sure that Danny makes fun of you a little bit. Even though she loves it when you put the hat on. Wives, I don't know about ladies, but wives, when you put the hat on, yes sir, yes ma'am.
Yeah.
Just tip that hat a little bit. You put on the baby blues and the hat.
Yeah.
There you go. But
right.
She said, make sure Danny makes fun of you a little bit, because I don't get to wear it that often. And here in Austin, we've talked about it before,
it's
shorts,
not the culture.
Polo. You can't really pull off the hat with what I wear normally. So any chance
I think it's
I've
really
got...
funny that you didn't tell me to make fun of you. It just came naturally to me.
That is true. That is true.
Off topic, we were, because when I moved there, I turned into a cowboy real quick. That
yes,
wasn't
you
even
did. Yes, you
I
did.
didn't even try. Okay.
So proud of you.
I tried to get horns on my Lincoln, like steer horns.
Yes.
I ended up when I was leaving, I ended up going to buy some horns for a buddy, put them on his truck. But
nice.
Anyways, so like that line. You remember those old guys who used to come to our networking group, and I called them the Oldson twins because they were just old guys. Okay.
Yes.
One time I walked into our networking group and I was wearing a cowboy hat. He's like, man, is a rodeo in town? I thought that was funny. I was like, dude, you're from Houston, man.
Only the largest rodeo in the world right there.
Yeah,
Houston. But go ahead.
Can we jump into these stories already? Or do we got to chit-chat about your problems?
We can't talk a little bit first? Might as well be talking to my wife, apparently. Can't even talk into our stuff first, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. I think this is super awesome. Our first story, really good feel-good story of the last year. And I guess, the problems of our last year will follow us into 2021. By the way, Happy New Year, everybody.
It is a new year. Absolutely. We are recording this after the new year, so happy 2021. I hope it's a whole hell of a lot better for you than 2020.
2020 was pretty good to me, but anyways, it was not good to other people, and a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs had a rough go.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, a guy that I talk a lot about on this show, Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports, was tweeting, and he's making videos about how he can't believe New York City shut down restaurants again, and all this, this, that, and the third. And he got challenged by CNBC's Marcus Lemonis, who, has a show where he goes around the country and he buys up businesses. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying if you Google his name, you might find some people who've dealt with him who thought he was less than great to deal with.
Anybody that buys up
failing
businesses or at-risk businesses or whatever it's already traditionally looked at as slimy, right?
Yeah. And anyways, none of that is the point. He said to Dave Portnoy, put your money where your mouth is. You put up $500,000, I'll put up $500,000. Right now, the Barstool Fund, as it has been to be named, the Barstool Fund, and I pulled up their website right now. When I put this in our show notes, because I build all of the notes for this show, Big Man has no idea how this show happens. He just hits record. I pick the stories. The fund was at $7 million. Woo! Now, you might be thinking, that's amazing. They raised $7 million for struggling businesses in America.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but that warms my heart. Okay,
Well,
my
but
cholesterol-ridden heart.
you did send this story to me, and you attached not only the Barstool Sports, but also Guy Fieri, right? And he did something very similar, but he wasn't
Yep.
challenged to do it. Of course, he's in the restaurant industry, right, as
Right.
well.
So he raised $21 million specifically for restaurants,
Well,
which were the hardest hit of the industry, hardest hit industry of the.
and that's what I found about both these stories they're very very similar, right? They're helping
Yeah.
certain people. When you get somebody like a Guy Fieri raising money for his industry specifically, you get what you get with that kind of name. You have an audience, and you and I talk about this a lot about an audience. When you have
Yeah.
an audience like his and access like his, Guy Fieri not only went out and found people to donate, he found Pepsi donated, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think $1 million or something like that. There was a couple of different big companies that go, hey, Guy Fieri's got his name on it. This is a tax write-off for us anyway. And he said it, and what I liked about sometimes with people like this, and I don't know about the other one, but I know the Guy Fieri, I read a lot about this one. He actually did it right. And when I say by did it right, we're talking about he's raised millions, like you said, $21.5 million, and I think it's still going, right?
21 and a half.
Over a period of
Yep.
like 7
No,
weeks.
his
or
fund I
something
think
like
is
that.
done, but
Well, but anyway, the point is, what I mean is they set it up and then they did it right. He had things like 80% that what they did is they sent out $500 checks, right?
Yeah.
They sent out $500 gifts to people in the restaurant industry that, oh, by the way, in 2020, I was mortified by this number. In 2020, it's estimated that 3.4 million people in the restaurant and hospitality business lost their job.
yeah,
Or got
that's
cut
a
back
lot
in.
of people.
Okay, that's a ton of people, right?
That's a lot of people in one industry. And sometimes, the hospitality business, whether it's hotels, restaurants, what have you, they're more likely to be family businesses
Absolutely.
because there's not a huge technical scale to leap there. So that is concerning because it's not like mom loses her job and dad keeps going to work. It's mom lost her job at dad's restaurant, which is owned by dad's dad. So now everybody's out of work.
And that includes the 25-year-old son that's worked there since he was 16 and the
And
daughter
doesn't
that
have any other skills and doesn't know how to do nothing else. So, and this includes, hey, for people who are who are concerned about these matters. I'm not that kind of guy, but this is a lot of immigrants, by the way. This is a lot of a lot of
Absolutely.
people come to this country, and the best skill they bring is they bring their foreign culture, and they bring their weird food, and Americans eat that stuff up literally, and that is like so. What is different about Barstool's fund is, with this roughly at $6.5 million today, they are, and I love, what's actually interesting is Guy Fieri did a Barstool, a Dave Portnoy style. He calls it the emergency press conference, right? Prez does these all the time. Dave Portnoy, El Prez. And so they do these emergency press conferences. And Fieri did one very similar to how he does them, and he endorsed the Barstool Fund and said this is awesome that he's doing it. And the way that it's different is they are literally going through people's payroll. They're saying, okay, you had a successful business for 5 years, you got slammed by 2020. 2020 just nailed you. And they're not just doing restaurants; they're doing all sorts of businesses, haberdasheries, and which is just a fancy way of saying men's clothing store. If you're the kind of fellow that shops at a haberdashery, I think. Well,
Stop
anyways,
it. They all need help, Daddy. If you were affected by 2020, you needed help.
I'll keep my opinion to myself.
Yeah.
So they're at this point supporting 56 businesses, which sounds like, well, that's not enough for 16 million. They're covering payroll, because they're going through people's books and saying, hey, I liquidated my savings to get my guys paid. We're closed. I have no revenue. I'm trying to keep my thing floating. This shouldn't happen to me. I had a successful business for however many years. And I love watching the videos of Dave calling up these people and saying, hey, we're going to cover your payroll until you're open again.
See, isn't that this and people here, look, we're a business podcast, right? We talk about business and we talk about how businesses affect businesses and yada yada. And this is a great story, but here, one thing I want people to get out of this is you realize that even on this, we're talking about large scale right now, right? We're talking about
Right.
millions and millions of dollars being raised for companies to pay payroll or whatever. You as a small business, I don't care if you're a 1-person business or a 5-person business or a 500-person business, you can, the amount of marketing that's out there by helping other people is
Right.
legit endless. I, I
Yeah.
I have again, you know this. I've taught classes all around the country about marketing and this kind of stuff. And one of my biggest things is go out and help your community, your high school. You know how I have built a business around coaching my kids' teams, which I was going to do anyway, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't paint them with my logo over their backs or any of that kind of stuff. It just comes up in conversation, right?
Of course. Yeah.
This year we donated. I got I don't remember how many referrals, but at the beginning of the year, this school year, I went out and bought custom middle school masks for all of the teachers, janitors,
Nice.
principals,
Yeah. Everybody.
and gave them for them. It had the middle school logo, not my logo. They were customized
Right.
for the middle school. Gave them because the school district was not going to give them masks to wear for the school. They didn't have them at the beginning of the school
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
So I went out and custom had those done for the school. Didn't have my information on it or whatever. But you think I didn't get business? There are so many, whether it's
And let me just say
schools-
something.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
know, because people are going to have a that's going to feel icky to some people to like, but here's the point. This is how society works. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing a good thing for the sake of doing a good thing and reaping some sort of benefit, because you get to do more good things that way.
They want
The only-
you to. They
Yeah.
want you to. I took those masks up there. I had no plans to take a photo. I had
Yeah, of
no
course
plans to. I didn't do any of that. But you know what happened that day? I got tagged in countless. My business got tagged in countless numbers
Yes,
of people posting
of
on
course.
Facebook that this company bought us masks right here at the middle school
Yeah.
as teachers, as janitors, and whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for. That's my point. The people that you are helping want
Yeah.
your business to succeed so that you will come back and help again, or you'll help
Of
somebody
course.
else.
And so this is, and now I'm going to say something in the realm of the political for a moment here. There is a, an economist of the Austrian school named F.A. Hayek. He theorized or postulated this theory called spontaneous order. And what that effectively means is when there's a problem, people will come together to solve the problem, right?
Sure.
And so, for instance, I remember there was an earthquake in Haiti, and this is back when I lived up in Minnesota. A famous Christian rapper named Lecrae came to Minneapolis. There was a nightclub that was owned by a church. Big failure, dumb choice. And he shot a music video. He made a song specially for the earthquake, donated all of the proceeds to earthquake relief, shot the video in the club. I'm somewhere. If you pause the video somewhere, you can probably find me, but it was dark in there, so you probably can't. But all I'm saying is, people, when there's a crisis, a legitimate crisis, people come together, and as someone who is generally a little more jaded and have a more sarcastic sense of humor, this kind of stuff warms my heart nearly to tears. And I think it's what people don't understand is when entrepreneurs are given the leeway and the opportunity, we'll take care of other people, right?
Well, at least the majority of us. Now, there's
Yeah,
no
I'm just
blanket
saying,
rule
like,
that applies to everybody, but yes,
Of course, there's no
the
such thing as a blanket rule that
right.
applies to
But the
everybody,
majority of us will come together, and that because
we
also-
understand the cost benefit. Like, we understand I'm going to do something good, and on its own, just by itself in a vacuum, this is a good thing, but it's going to come back.
Well, what you said just a second ago, to some people that may feel wrong. This is one of the things, and I'll be honest with you, I had that same feeling in the beginning, right? Before I started doing it on a regular basis, because I thought that same way. But if you're listening to this podcast, do something small. for something around your network
Right.
and see how it feels, and it will change your mind, because that's what
Yeah.
happened to me. Is it changed when I did something small, and then I did the next thing, and then I did the next thing. It felt so good, and the people that I was helping were so appreciative that it overrides that fear, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right? It's fear.
Totally.
That, oh my God, I'm doing this for a self-serving reason. And the people that get that help do not care. The people that get that help do not care, that even if you are doing it for selfish reasons, and I'm not saying everybody should, I'm just saying that the people that get that help don't care what those reasons are. That if Pepsi was to give everybody, last night at the New Year's Eve, they were giving away $1 million. They did this Powerball thing where they gave away like $5 million prizes to random families, and to see these families on television get picked for the $1 million, it was insane. You could tell it was changing their lives. Now that's $1 million prize, but you could. I'll give you another example, and again, I don't like this tooting my own horn.
$1 million is way better than a kick in the teeth, man.
Well, but here's the deal. Like I don't mean, my wife and I for the last couple of years have helped promote an organization here in town that nobody would recognize, so it doesn't matter. But the point is we've helped them, and what they do is they set up needy families during Christmas that wouldn't otherwise have a Christmas, right?
Right.
And they find people to essentially adopt a family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go out
buy
and
all their gifts.
You buy, well, not in this one. You buy not only the gifts, and this is why my wife joined. We partnered with this one. Is they not only buy gifts for the mom or the dad, the kids, whoever's in the family, right? However many people in the family, you also buy 2 weeks worth of groceries.
That's great.
You know what I mean? You buy them. You buy all the kids a jacket, gloves, a hat, right? So it's like this. It's like this total care package, because guess what? It's Texas. We don't need a jacket most of the year, but you know what I mean?
There's a couple days of the year where you do need a jacket, and
yesterday was one of those days, right?
Yeah.
So, but we partner because and when you deliver, and you deliver that yourself, like it doesn't go to the organization. They set you up with a direct line of contact with the person you adopted.
So you feel good about it. You know that it went to those people.
I take my kids. My kids are 13, 12, and 12. We've done it for the last several years. You think that doesn't have an impact on my children? That they go with us and help unload. My wife wraps the presents, of course, and like she does the whole thing. And these kids are taking groceries into a house that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're seeing how that affects, and these other kids that are just, their face
happy
lights
to get
up,
something.
right?
Yeah,
And stuff like that. So all of this goes into that same pot of, as entrepreneurs, as people, as that kind of stuff. If you can create so much business and goodwill by helping other, even on a really, really small scale, your neighborhood, right? The kids down the street, the buying T-shirts for your local baseball team, right? 12-year-old baseball team, even if you don't have a kid. There are so many needs out there that you could pick from a plethora on any given day. But what happens is, and this is one of the things as we do this podcast, I hope we get people, is action is the only way to succeed. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody thinks, oh, I should do this every now and then. Oh, well, I see that, man, maybe I could help. And they do nothing. That's 2021. It's a new year. Find something in January now that you can do, even on a small, there's things that you can do for 10, 15, $20.
Listen, there is a guy back in Minneapolis that there's some video, I forget who it's from, and I ran into him once when I was at a gas station. He drives around in a van. He wakes up every day at 10 o'clock at night, and he goes and feeds homeless people sandwiches. He's a retired teacher, doesn't have a family, and that was his goal. Like, I was going to retire, and and it's a whole thing. Now there's groups getting together to make sandwiches, to go deliver sandwiches. He now has, I think they said 10 refrigerators in his one-bedroom apartment. Go find that thing that to you sings to you. To me, I'm a big guy. I don't really know what it's like to be really hungry. I know what it's like to, like, man, I should eat something.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's like to be, like, starving. And so I really connect with that concept of, like, feeding hungry people. It's the oldest. And so, we'll close with this. There's this guy named Tony Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells the story of how, he grew up destitute without a dad or something along those lines. And there wasn't food for Thanksgiving. And one Thanksgiving or Christmas, there's a knock on the door.
It was Thanksgiving. It's every
What's
Thanksgiving now. It's every Thanksgiving now, yeah.
Yeah, but so somebody popped up and showed up with a turkey. And he resolved, I think he said, the first year he did it, he was just, I fed 10 people. I fed 10 families. You can say whatever the heck you want to say about Tony Robbins. You can say whatever the heck you want about his business. But the guy is out there, and I think he's feeding tens of millions of people.
Oh, yeah, every Thanksgiving at this point. His foundation or whatever he created.
Yeah.
There's a name specifically for that nonprofit that he has.
Yeah, I forget what it is.
He's feeding a whole bunch of people is the point.
So, I'm the kind of person where, and I don't actually have a beef with his business, but I know people who do, and they're like, oh, he's just, whatever promotional. I don't care, man.
The guy does it. Look, if you can say this about a bunch of people, right? Bill Gates.
He does more good than he does harm for people.
Bill Gates, Tony Robbins, right? All these different people or whatever. There's a lot of people.
Let's not go there with Bill Gates.
Oh, okay? Whatever. Okay. Yeah, he only puts more money in philanthropy than anybody else in the world. But all right. Sure, we'll leave him out of it. Get out of here.
Philanthropy.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. I know. He's the mark of the beast. Yada, yada, yada. Go ahead.
Trying to inject me with microchips. Catch me on the street, Bill Gates.
Woo!
We'll see how your sweater survives.
That is amazing. Hey, the point of this entire story was they're giving money to people that help it. I think,
and it's beautiful. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful sentiment. Now let's get into something a little more interesting. Well, less heartwarming, but just as interesting. Amazon, because Amazon can't just...
Okay, whoa. Hard stop. We went from giving money away to Amazon. Amazon's the direct opposite of giving money away. Jeff Bezos and Amazon is...
Well, we're all giving our money away to Amazon.
Gimme. Yeah. But anyway, I
don't know if that's true. They have some sort of component of like Amazon Smiles or something where they give part of your... I don't know.
Yeah, they share revenue. And yeah, I do that for the middle school and, for that. But anyway, go ahead.
You with your kid's school. Yikes, guy.
Shut up. You're an idiot.
Amazon is acquiring Wondery, which is a large podcasting network, which for those of you who don't know, was where the Barstool podcast Call Her Daddy, which was super huge. It was a big controversy. I never listened to the podcast because I'm a straight guy, and it's unlistenable garbage.
Okay, can the straight guy, any guy or girl could listen, or what?
I don't.
Or them.
And for those reasons, I'm out. Oh, okay.
Can listen to that podcast and enjoy it. You do not have to be male, female, or other. Okay.
So I'm saying...
Send all your comments to Danny@upyours.com.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. What's interesting is Wondery was where Suit Guy took the podcast to try and bring it, because he's like, anyways, if you know the story, you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Wondery is a huge company, and it was They started
out with like crime podcasts, right? Like didn't that make their niche footprint was these big time crime podcasts
for chicks,
stuff like that? Yeah. Come on, man. You're good at send your email to Danny@upyours.com. I'm going to get him an email address that we're going to put on here on the bottom, just so that when he says this crazy stuff, like I'm not a chick, y'all can all email him. I don't want any part of it.
That's not crazy. That's not a crazy thing to say. Those are facts.
Go ahead.
So they're trying to turn Audible into, which is their audiobook platform.
Yeah.
They're trying to turn their audiobook platform, Audible, into a podcast platform. And that's what this
I think in addition to, right? I mean,
I think they're trying to, because you're already there listening to something, right?
Right.
And David Spade, which is really interesting, David Spade put out a audio book that, like, I don't think there was a written version first. I think there was just an audio book. and it was exclusive to Audible,
Well,
that's really interesting.
exclusive seems to be this future, right? Yeah, Joe Rogan go over to Spotify, right? And you
Yeah.
have these deals. Pat McAfee, if you're a sports guy, his podcast went over to Sirius XM, right? You know, on the Mad Dog Sports Radio, right? You have these
Oh, that he
people.
did.
Oh,
McAfee signed
absolutely.
that
He
deal.
he got out of he couldn't handle. You got a sports guy, right? He likes to cuss every now and then, that kind of stuff. FCC radio wasn't where he needed to be. You go over to Sirius XM.
Pat McAfee was at radio.
Oh
I didn't
yeah,
know he was on
he got a
radio.
small radio show for a little while, and
Okay.
it didn't work because it just didn't fit, right? You got sports guys, you've got football players and different stuff like that do interviews. They want to talk more commonly than you would on a radio show, talk about things you're not supposed to talk about. Anyway, the point is that, you know, and apps are this way too, right? Netflix, right? Hulu, CBS All Access. That's where unique marketing is, where all of these separate themselves, right? Netflix taught us that if you have unique shows, that people will find you if they like that show, and then they'll stay for everything else.
So I just think that it's interesting, and here's why. I know Spotify recently scooped up a different company. I forget what that one is. They last year, our I think they're a future sponsor of ours, Anchor. If you're only listening to the audio, it's distributed via Anchor. Spotify had acquired them. I think we're getting to a point where this is becoming a large enough space, podcasting is, and it's diverse enough that these huge companies are spending fortunes. Right now, Amazon is running a contest until the 18th of January, 2021, where if you have a episodic style podcast that really does fit into that, how Wondery would do things,
Sure.
the true crime, that kind of thing, they will give you $10,000 and that's if you win the contest or you get accepted into the program, what have you.
To develop it and market it and that. Look, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to get people to submit ideas and content and that kind of stuff. But here's the deal. Look, here's what I find interesting about this story is not only is Amazon trying to eat up just everything, right? I mean, but you're talking about their offer. The rumors of their offer at this point is $300 million. Now, let me tell you why that's important. The last round, you're talking about the very last large independent podcasting company out there that the last round that had to this point has been 100% supported by venture capitalists, right?
Right.
They've taken no big money from a big company like Amazon or anybody else, right? It's all been venture capitalists. The last time they did a round of raising money was last year in 2019. Well, year before last now, right? But mid 2019, and at that point, their company, when they went around asking for money, was estimated to be worth about $100 million. So you're talking about 18 months later, and
They're
that
doing
evaluation
3x.
has tripled.
Yeah. Well, I just think that it's because I was correct. I just looked this up to be sure. Spotify acquired The Ringer, Gimlet Media, which Gimlet was similar in the sense that it was a podcast producer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anchor, which was more of a tech app, and and Parcast. Spotify just acquired all of those, right?
Right.
And so Spotify is now becoming standalone, like juggernaut. It's becoming, the FANG companies, as they're often referred to. It's starting to get up there because it was competing in which was strictly music space, but became just audio in general and now video because they do video. That they bring the Joe Rogan video on, which their app is not as good as YouTube, but
No,
hey,
it's a natural expansion though, right? Like they're just and all of these in that way are trying. YouTube keeps trying to get into the TV industry, right? They tried having their own unique, TV shows type things with some of the creators and stuff like that, and it didn't do great. But they're going to continue to try and expand because that's it. You expand or you die, right? There's no third direction. So they're all trying different things. But when you're talking about, again, evaluation, $300 million, you're talking about a company. I don't always understand the way these big time company evaluations work. because you're talking about a company, and I looked this up because, again, I'm a math nerd. I'm a data nerd, right?
Right.
And when I'm sitting here, you're going, okay,
and
wait a
you're
minute.
a general nerd as well.
Well, yeah, I'm a general nerd as well, but I'm a data nerd. You're talking about a company that Amazon's willing to offer $300 million for a company that in 2021 is only slated to make just under $40 million.
Right. Yeah, but he also
and wasn't profitable in 2019.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. Jeff Bezos gave his ex-wife now a couple $100 billion just to go away. So you think he cares about $300 million? He doesn't. It's irrelevant.
There's something to be said about people with money and the old "it's just a nickel" story, right?
Yeah.
But you still look. Another company is going to use this sale. Right, that's the way it works in business, right? That's the way it works in the NFL or anything else that has value. That podcasting company had 300 shows and was worth $300 million. I have 300 shows, right? So I should be worth at least 250. I mean, that's how these things work. We use other sales, so it's more complicated than that.
Like there's speaking of Joe Rogan, he had Andrew Schultz on, very funny comedian. Mm-hmm. He was just talking about he didn't really understand until recently, like how the existing marketplace that we have is like not real free market capitalism. It's fake. It's cronyist kind of thing. And what he was saying is like, yeah, like these venture capitalists go pump this thing up to the moon and they go take it public. And that's basically, not in this situation, but in other situations, that's how the venture capitalists, because they pumped it up for, we'll talk about this in our next story, but they'll pump it up and be like, yep, it's worth $100 billion. It's losing $2 billion a year, but somehow because of how they invested the money and how they juxtapose their investment, and then they take it public on those inflated data points.
Well, not just inflated data points, but future thought, right? Every business has a business plan of projected, when is it going to go, even in this, right?
If they raised funds, you said in 2019, they raised around in 2019 at $100 million value. Mm-hmm. Those investors that I don't know who was investing at that point, but they're early investors. Everybody is looking at this $300 million and going, yeah, let's take it.
Well, because they have venture capitalists, right? A venture capitalist that gave them, let's say, $100,000, 18 months ago, tripled their investment, right? At least. The venture capitalists that got in before that probably multiplied it by 10, right? And then before that, multiplied it by 100, right? And that's the way it works. That's why venture capitalist firms carry such high risk, is the high potential of return, right? Yeah. And those venture capitalists that invested in this ballpark run, which, by the way, covers the 99 other ones that didn't, that lost. Right? And not only does it cover them, they've made more money off of this one than they lost on those other ones. Of course, right?
That's how that's the business.
That's the venture capitalist business. But you're talking about $40 million in revenue, right? And it adds to. But here's what Amazon is looking at, and I think this goes to why you pay $300 million for something like this. Is it's slated to make $40 million in 2021, but they expect that to be 80 or 100 million next year, and then 300 million the next year. So a company like Amazon can wait 2, 3, 5, 7 years for it to turn into what they wanted to. You know what I mean? For their return on investment, right? So it'll make money it'll be clear to profit for them by year 3.
Yeah, and it's not even that in Amazon's head. I don't think it's, if we want to be in this space, if we want to compete, we don't want someone else to buy them.
Well, right? Or you look, we all know this. When you get to a certain size, large businesses, and this doesn't apply to most businesses, right? Most businesses, something like 75% of all businesses in the United States are medium to small businesses, right? It's a very small percentage that is large businesses like the Amazons and stuff like that. And right. I think that when you get to Amazon and stuff like that, you're talking about like 5%. Those are mega-sized businesses. When you get to even large-scale businesses, it becomes cheaper for you to acquire than it is to build from scratch, right?
Right.
So Amazon is not going to go out, because they've seen this over and over and over again. Facebook tried this back in the day before they acquired Instagram and stuff like that. They try to adapt and add to, and something doesn't work out, right? And then they just drop it. So it's easy to acquire technology, acquire people that know what the hell they're doing with that technology, right?
Right.
Than it is to develop. And that's all Amazon's doing here is Audible. It fits great with podcasting. Both people are listening on their phones, right?
Yeah.
Let's go out and acquire somebody that knows what the hell they're doing. Let's keep the higher level people on, right, that know what they're doing, and then just keep right on rolling.
Yep. And listen, Audible already has a subscription type model, and so it's not unreasonable to think that fits in with Wondery's, thought process on how they're going to continue to grow and how they're going to continue to be a revenue generating business.
Well, and Wondery picks up too. What does Wondery pick up? They pick up Amazon's marketing and artificial intelligence marketing, right? Where anybody that buys a product that, let's say my wife, for example, is part of Amazon Prime's book thing, right? She reads like crazy. She's an insane reader, right? But if she picks up a crime,
she have the time.
Oh God, she reads so fast. It's insane. Right. Okay. Anyway, but if she was to go after this, you know what I mean, inclusion or whatever, and they plug everything into Amazon, if she goes and buys a crime novel of some sort, you think she's not going to start getting ads of crime podcasts and this kind of stuff? So Wondery gets to come in, and not only maybe their $40 million estimate for this year was obviously before Amazon bought them, maybe that doubles or triples right away just because you're adding in the marketing capabilities, the programming capabilities of Amazon, right, on their platform. So they're getting the people that hopefully Wondery was one of those companies that let their employees share in the ownership of that, and they're getting paid too. That's what I always hope when I see these smaller companies get bought by these mega companies.
Scooped up by big companies is some of their first employees.
The people involved get paid, right? Because that's really what I hope is the case. Now that may be optimistic of me.
I think this is. Listen, we started a podcast. This is a podcast.
It is.
I mean, so we have I certainly have lofty goals for this business. I mean, but I just think it's, here's what I love about it as a millennial. I love that something that didn't exist when I was a kid exists now. And if you go to one of my parents or, one of my aunts or uncles and go, yeah, there's somebody making, I think Joe Rogan's prior to his deal with Spotify, $75,000 an episode, where he just gets high and talks with his buddies about, and that's fine. That's totally fine because we're consuming it. And if you go tell them that, they'll be like, yeah, that's not real, kid. You need a real job where you sit in an office. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to sit in my great-grandmother's basement that is flooded, and I'm going to talk about businesses doing dumb things. But if you are not, we will link in our show notes the link to that Audible deal where they're running a contest to see if you can get sponsored by them for $10,000 to get set up.
And if that's your deal, and I read through kind of some of the terms and conditions earlier today about that to kind of get into what they're trying to look. If you are thinking about starting, they are willing to look at content, whether you have an idea, whether you're existing, whether you've been around for 10 years, all of those people, they're saying, hey, bring it on. So if you've got an idea and you're putting it out there, man, put your name in there. Fill out the paperwork.
You got nothing to lose.
You got nothing to lose. And, worst case scenario, that you do win and Amazon tells you that it's not going to work. I mean, after putting some money in.
And I don't know how it works, but it's assuming they give you the $10,000 and it's yours to keep, and you just go on with maybe you just put it out on your own,
Either way, it doesn't matter. Right? Get your $10,000 and go on about your business. All right, what else we got, Mr. Danny?
Are you ready?
I am always ready, my friend.
This was my favorite scam of 2019. I loved it. I wanted to cradle it like a baby and just a little baby.
Okay, if y'all have listened to this podcast for several episodes, there's a
Yes.
reoccurring theme that Danny says, and it's usually "I love this scam." Maybe that's
Yeah.
what we need to put on one of our T-shirts. We need to
Sure.
put in there, "I love this scam dash Danny." Like that's
Okay, I have some of those dark triad traits, and I like a good scam. I'm not going to do a scam because it's morally wrong to
for
do.
legal reasons. He's not admitting that he would do a scam. But go ahead.
Okay, I mean, I'm just saying. WeWork, like we were just talking about how, the largest investor in WeWork was SoftBank, the Vision Fund.
Still
They
is.
invested.
Still is.
Yeah, they own it now.
Right.
WeWork is saying, and this article, where did this article even come from? It came from Vox. So that is reputable.
Well, I saw it on Washington Journal and a couple of other
Yeah, a
places
couple other
as
places,
well.
yeah.
But
But WeWork is saying that because of Dos Equis and because they crashed and burned right before the Dos Equis, that they are positioned to thrive in the post Dos Equis era, because of how workforces will be distributed. Now, do I know that it's going to be WeWork and not someone else? I don't know, but
look, WeWork is definitely the name people think about when they think, because it was such a huge story, right? At the beginning of 2020, end of 2019, the failed IPO. Look, you talk about your favorite scam. Here, look, there are things it's called golden parachutes that everybody talks about, right? And stuff like that. Newman, the guy that rode that into the ground,
Newman.
drugs, everything, whatever. They paid him to walk away. Do you know what his pay to walk away was? And this is a failed IPO. Failed IPO.
It was north of $1 billion, but I don't think there was some issues collecting on it actually.
$1.7 billion. It doesn't matter that if he only gets half of it and it's 800. They paid him
Still obnoxious.
$1.7 billion to walk away from a company that he ran into the ground. It was his fault that the IPO didn't happen.
Well,
largely, not all entirely, but largely, he was the one captaining that ship, right?
Yeah, well, listen, I think their investing thesis in WeWork was you're a real estate guy, you know this. There is something about that math, and Sam Zell was saying this when the IPO. Sam Zell's the largest owner of office space in the country, and Sam Zell looks like a villain from a 1980s Superman movie. If you ever seen him, I like him. He's a nice guy. I'm just saying that's what he looks like.
Yeah.
He's like, there's something that doesn't make sense about we're going to take on long-term liabilities with short-term and take those long-term liabilities and offer people short-term assets, which is we're taking a 15-year commercial lease. They're the largest not landowner, but they're the largest tenant in New York City and
renter,
London.
right? Commercial
the
renter.
largest commercial tenant in New York City. They were, and in a year that like we just had, they're saying we're poised to thrive because because so many people left New York City, so many people left Los Angeles and San Francisco. Now they're saying, well, we might have 30 or 40% of people that never, ever go back to their office. And if you're a huge company, if you're a huge tech company, if you're a huge financial services company like out in New York City, you don't want to have to replace your workforce that says, hey man, this thing scared me, so I'm not going back to New York City, right?
Right.
I'm going to live in New Jersey. I'm going to go live in Connecticut. I'm going to go live in Florida, what have you,
Texas or wherever, right? Because the internet goes everywhere. Look, here's the deal. I think, yes, they are poised, but specifically not. I don't know, like you said, I don't know that WeWork is the person that whatever. I believe that it's that industry. And again, we keep saying WeWork. If you don't know, it's co-working space is essentially the idea. It's just a big, large. But the point is I think co-working space as a business model is poised for the future, coming out of Dos Equis, right? Coming out of 2020. I think over the next several years, as leases come up on some of these companies like call centers and other things like that, their leases expire, I think you will see a large trend of, why don't I just partner with co-working space? So my people, when they feel they need to, let's say your internet goes out on a day, or because, and here's why, the other reason I say they're poised is the fact that a lot of people that have been working from home this year, I mean, I talked to, look, the last two companies that I'm partial owner in, we work exclusively with these kind of partnerships and have for years now, because it lowers that overhead cost for the company, right? So, and what I hear from a lot of these people that have worked from home in the last year specifically, is they want to get back out to a office type of environment. Now, they don't want to go back to work to the office every day. They want the access to go into an office type environment. Right. So you go to this co-working space, there's other people there working on other projects. You get that feel of being around other people. Typically, they're very nice and well laid out. The one that I use, that is my actual address here in Cedar Park, Texas, is a co-working space. I know the owner.
Yeah, I know them as well. I know both.
Right, and they keep it nice, right? Yeah. They that kind of stuff.
It's a nice spot.
Right. Well, and that's the point, right? So you're going into what is probably a nicer office than you were going into. It's nice and comfortable. Internet access is always nice and fast, that kind of stuff. So I think you got both things working for you. You got companies.
Yeah, you moved there from Regis, right? You were at a Regis office before.
Regis is who we originally had a partner with. Right. And then when I joined this other company and became an owner in this next company, Regis was with the last company. So I developed another partnership with the new company with our local guys here. But that's the point, is that you're getting two out of this, right? It's good for business and it's good for their employees. And that's very rarely do you get both cases, right, in this scenario, right?
Where it's going to lower costs but make your employees happier.
Well, exactly. I mean, and that's what companies are looking for, right? Going for, every company is always looking to save money, right?
Of course.
I think you're gonna, when you add in co-working space with products like Zoom or any other platform that you use to FaceTime each other in business and stuff like that, you get a very comfortable but still keeping in constant contact. I think you're also going to see companies, and man, I had one in my head and I forgot about it. There's a couple of companies out there that, and a lot of your financial industry right now, like TD Ameritrade and stuff like that, are using this, where essentially you log on, right? So even though they're working from home, they're logging on almost like a time card, right? You're logged on. Everything that you do is recorded. Everything, you know what I mean? So I think you're going to see those type of companies go IPO as well, that are out there that were typically very fringe, right? That weren't being used, at least a lot here in America. Other companies from foreign countries use them a lot, but weren't being used in America. You're going to see if this trend continues of, hey, I can go into the co-working space, I can stay at home at work, but they want to know that you're working, right? Your manager is going to be tasked to making sure that you're getting your job done and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be an opportunity for those type of companies to grow along with this kind of co-working space. And I think this is an entrepreneur business type show. I think what you're going to see is a lot of potential for local co-working space. You've got big companies like Regis, big companies like WeWork, that kind of stuff. But if you live in a suburb of a big company, right? Like
a big city.
The people that we're talking about here in Cedar Park, they only own 3 of these co-working spaces.
They're up to 3?
They're up to 3, but that's my point, is they're up to 3. And I guarantee you they'll be up to 6 before probably the end of the year, taking advantage of this trend, right? You could, if you live in a small suburb of a bigger city, you 100% could develop one of these nice niche for that area. It goes back to what we were talking about. Look, this is something you're doing for your neighborhood, your area, whatever, that can also make you money.
Right, yeah.
right?
That's
now, you have to
interesting. I
do
didn't
it.
know they had 3 stores already. Or
Yeah,
3
the
fronts.
expectation, I think, has definitely increased. It used to be co-working spaces were these sad places where you walked in the front door, there was as many desks as people could fit in there. It was just a big open space. Maybe they had a coffee pot, or you know what I mean?
You're right, right.
And it was this sad little place. In today's world, that is just not the case.
And I think to their credit, for every, Adam Newman said, the goal of WeWork is to elevate the world's consciousness, go drown in a river. Oh my goodness. I can't stand people who come out, who are not come out, but like who talk about entrepreneurship in these saving the world type of terms. I can't stand you. You're the worst.
Well, the bloating, right? The over exaggeration. Look, you're
Bloating,
providing a service that people enjoy, but there is something said to be doing it right.
So I'm saying like WeWork deserves credit for creating this environment where they go, people will pay more if you just give them a beautiful place.
Absolutely,
and I feel like that is. And listen, man, I'm someone who thinks a lot of this feelings stuff is dumb. But I'll tell you, I had a light in one of my old apartments that made me sad. I just never turned it on. I turned on the other lights because I had the sad light, and the sad light could be on with the happy light, but the sad light couldn't be on by itself. It just made me sad.
I've never come across a sad light. I don't. Was it the bulb? Was it where the location of the lamp was? What did it? The mood that it created in the room? What was sad about the light?
It was one of those things where it didn't emit enough light that it felt like it lit up the space. It wasn't the bulb. It was just where it was located. That apartment had like 10-foot or 12-foot ceilings, right? Tall ceilings. So it just made me sad. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. I can't explain why.
Danny is an onion, folks. He has so many layers to this. First time, known this guy for years. First time I've ever heard about the sad light.
You know what? And you want to know something? In my parents' house, I have the exact same feeling when they have their family room, a dining area, and the kitchen all right in one great room. Okay. And if just the family room light is on, I feel sad. But if it's any other combination of lights, it's fine. But if it's just that one, it makes me sad. I don't know why.
So if you're creating a co-working space, make sure there's no sad lights. That's what Danny's trying to get across here.
Happy lights.
No sad lights, only happy lights.
But I'm just saying, I've walked into offices like you're talking about, and they're like where that clip of Wolf of Wall Street where he walks into that strip mall trading desk, and it's a sad place. And WeWork created happy places that were aesthetic, places that your girl wants to go and take pictures and put them on Instagram. And,
which would do your business really well in the beginning. There's actually one here in Austin, a big one that opened up before 2020. And
Industrious?
They were making a junk ton of money because what they did is created this. I mean, they just went out. They went crazy about it, right? Like there's a waterfall in, what I mean? There's a coffee shop inside, like an actual coffee shop inside and stuff. And I think you're going to see that growing as well. Things like a coffee shop inside. It just people will pay for coffee.
A company from my hometown in Minnesota called Lifetime Fitness. We have one, like there used to be one over by my apartment. I used to go there all the time. They built, and the guy, is an immigrant. He built his business, his gyms on the exact opposite. He was a Bally's executive, and he's like, this is a dumb concept. Like people will pay him, they won't show up. He built palaces, my friend. Monstrosities filled with marble. And guess what business he got into? He saw what WeWork was doing. Mm-hmm. And I have friends who work for Lifetime. Like I said, they're from my hometown in Minnesota. He got into co-working in apartments also because WeWork, one of their investments that sunk them was they got into apartments and they got into co-working because of that. Right? And I went and looked at their prices.
Did we just convince ourselves to open up Slim Co-working? Did we convince ourselves to open up Slim Co-working? Like
that's coming in the future, folks. Don't spill the beans here, big man.
I said Slim Co-working. Okay, I was sliding it in, and nobody would have noticed it if you didn't pull it out there, Danny.
Okay.
Like nobody, you can't take a hint. You gotta just chop me down, man. You gotta chop me down.
All right, okay, take it easy there before we bring out the Bucking Bronco and make you ride it.
Woo! Yeah!
All right, are you ready for this last story?
Is this our last story? Are we almost done for the day already? Like I don't feel
so
ready.
So here's the thing: 2019 WeWork, my favorite scam. This is a 2020 story, but we'll call it a 2021 story. KFC, by the way, don't like eating there, just saying.
Oh, come on, man. What is it? Yep. The 11 original spices? That is some
13 herbs and spices.
It's good, man. It is their original chicken is good stuff.
It's gross. And let me tell you something. As a big person, there are certain expectations that are put on you by this world. And one of them is that you like all sorts of junk food. I will say I'm a big person of exquisite taste.
No, he's not.
And yeah. Okay.
Individual taste. Yes. Exquisite.
Okay. That's probably more accurate. KFC.
Yes.
Is coming out with their own gaming console.
Woo! Yeah.
As you know, console wars are heating up.
No. Not just a gaming console. What else is it?
The chicken warmer.
It is a chicken warmer. It's a gaming console that is also a chicken warmer, right? And here now, it doesn't both work at the same time. You can't.
It doesn't?
No, I looked it up.
Okay.
Like again, I'm a nerd. I'm a data nerd. I'm a tech nerd. So Danny sends me this story, and it's like, okay, KFC coming out with a gaming console. Which, believe it or not, this is not the food industry's first round in getting into gaming. Food industry has actually been in gaming for decades. Ever since gaming has been created. The Noid, if you remember the Noid from Domino's Pizza, the Noid was a television commercial. It was a little cartoon character with bunny ears or whatever. Was one of the greatest games that came out the year that it came out. It was made by Capcom, specifically for Domino's. Right, where he ran a skateboard and stuff like that. So food has been in the gaming industry for a long time. They've done a lot of really great stuff. So people think it's weird, but it's not unusual. Now, when I say I'm also a gamer, I'm a game nerd and stuff like that. So what did I do? I went and looked up and made sure of two things. Is this a real thing? Which it is. What are being a gamer, what are the stats on this? Now, Danny, I know you're not a gamer, right? But you like technology. Okay, you've heard commercials this Christmas, right? PS5, Xbox Series X, right? Or whatever. Yep. This KFC gaming console, better technical stats than either one of those. Okay.
It's not technically a console, though. It's just a KFC computer.
It's a computer, right? Computer, now, it's got no CD drive or whatever. Who knows what games are going to be compatible. But my point is,
it might just be compatible with Steam.
From a technical standpoint, right? Yeah. 28 core processor. Okay. The gaming card that's said to be in it is a $2,000 gaming card by itself. That doesn't count anything else in it. So 28 core Intel Xeon processor with the RTX 390 in it. Those two items all by itself are thousands of dollars. What they're thinking about $2,000 for this thing. $2,000 for this thing. Limited series kind of a thing, right? They're not going to make a ton of them, but $2,000 for what is essentially all gaming systems are essentially just really massive computers, right?
Yeah, that's what they are. At this point, they are. Yeah.
But so my question is always I love stories like this because who out there, is buying a KFC branded computer, right? Gaming system, and for $2,000, like who's buying it?
Here's what I thought was interesting. I'll be honest with you. I did not realize that the chicken warmer. I just assumed one thing: huge 28 core Xeon processor. It's a 3090 Ti video card. My assumption was this thing is going to let off so much heat. They're just going to exhaust the heat into a chamber that warms up your chicken. That's what I assume.
That would make sense. But no, you can't run them both, because I thought the same thing. How in the hell are you going to warm chicken? I mean, that's the whole thing about gaming systems anyways. They get hot, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I have a gaming laptop. And in several of our podcasts, you can hear it in the background going,
yeah, like a jet. Like a jet engine, right? And
taking
these
off. Yeah.
390 Ti, these cards get super hot.
They get really
fans. Hot. Seven fans on these things. Because they do, right? Processing
and that's why you got
heats.
liquid cooling computers. That's why guys make them. Because
Exactly. So, so the stats on that, but again, who's buying the, I don't care whether they make 500 of these or 50, somebody is buying it. They will sell out.
I know, and that to me is like, I wonder. There's a level of I wouldn't call it trolling, but troll marketing to this. That is like, he's just gonna develop that kind of like supreme hype. Like, dude, Nike only made 50 of these Air Force Ones with the barf of Michael Jack with the hair from whatever it is, like this weird combination of things, and like that's what I wonder if this is. Dude, if it doesn't sell out and they end up knocking the price down, I'm buying one just because
It'll
10
sell.
or 15 years.
Dude,
somebody's
a couple of months
like,
back, and this is round 2. This must be a marketing plan for them. A couple of months back, they came out with a specialty Xbox controller, KFC Xbox controller. It was a normal Xbox controller wrapped in a KFC specific branded. They only made it a limited edition of them, sold them like that, and they were hideous. They were hideous. And
I guess maybe in my mind, if you said Taco Bell, okay, I get it. Taco Bell has a very specific audience. There was those kids that went out and did their senior pictures at Taco Bell. Like a girl had done her senior photos at Taco Bell. And then she later ended up modeling for Taco Bell, which you tell a guy like me, a model at Taco Bell, you got my attention. But I'm just saying, like, that Taco Bell makes a lot of sense to me. You tell me Whataburger, In-N-Out. These feel like fast food brands that have a very specific audience, okay?
Right.
I, to this day, only purchase Whataburger spicy ketchup in my home, all right?
Good
I
for
don't
you.
want that
That's
Heinz
some
garbage.
amazing stuff, man.
It is. It's really good. But I'm just saying, I just never thought that KFC had this kind of audience. But if they do, God bless them.
Look, this kind of goes back, again, we're a business podcast, we're an entrepreneur podcast. Earlier in the podcast, we were talking about how you can build a business around doing good things for your community. This is another thing. You can build a business around really crazy, unique, niche kind of stuff. Because guess what? KFC just had to put this out there. Hey, we're going to make a gaming It could be the largest piece of crap on the planet. It didn't have to have all these tech specs. That's just a bonus for them. And what does it do? You and I are sitting here talking about KFC's gaming console. They have spent probably no marketing dollars on this. In comparison to PS5, to Xbox Series X or whatever. They just have to throw this out there and people will talk about it until it comes out.
Yeah, but does that in this particular scenario, it might translate into sales of the console, because what you just described to me, like, or what you've described as with the specs, who cares about the chicken warmer? I might just scrap the chicken warmer part of it and just buy it because it's a good machine.
Right.
But I'm just saying, good marketing doesn't always lead to sales, right? It doesn't always translate to sales. I'll give you an example. Do you remember this company called Kmart?
Yes.
Came out with an ad. It was probably, between 5 to 10 years ago. And it was Ship My Pants. Because they were saying, we do online sales now. We're an e-commerce company. Ship My Pants is one of the funniest ads I've ever seen. I think about it every random once in a while. I'll think about.
I'm gonna have to look this up. I don't remember. And again, I worked for
Kmart. Don't
Kmart.
got the pants you can wear.
I worked for Kmart back in the day. Okay, that was one of my first jobs. Okay, so I worked for Kmart, so I was with Kmart right back in the day, and I don't remember a Ship My Pants.
Ship.
I understand. Yeah. Ship My Pants. With a P.
Ad.
Ship My Pants. But I don't remember this ad. I'm going to have to look this up.
Yeah, it's 5 to 10 years old. It's not older than that. But it was a funny ad. But let me tell you something. Kmart still went down the tubes.
Well, sure.
And that's not what I'm saying is going to happen here to KFC. And it's unrelated in a sense. But it's related in another sense, which is what you were saying, which is like, you can go create all this. I don't think, they created a fantastic ad that makes me laugh, but it's still, I'm not going to buy pants from Kmart.
Well,
And
but
there
I
ain't a
don't know
Kmart
that
anywhere.
KFC. Look, KFC. If you don't like KFC,
I don't like
obviously
it at
this
all.
ad is not going to change your mind. I think when you get to a certain,
There are so many better chicken places that you should be going to if you
there
want
are,
chicken.
but my point though is sometimes when you get to a certain size, it's not even about um, more sales. It's about branding, right? This is getting people talking about KFC, and that's what KFC wants.
And let me tell you something. KFC's marketing the last 2 to 3 years, the
Top
best, because
notch. The commercials with the different
they're the best.
comedians being, right, Colonel
The
Sanders, which is a
Colonel, yeah.
real guy, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Real
I know
guy,
Colonel Sanders.
by the way.
Colonel Sanders didn't start KFC until after he was 65.
And
Right?
speaking of entrepreneurship, if you don't know the story behind Colonel Sanders and KFC or whatever,
You should
go
learn about
check it out, because it is a hard luck story that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, in the beginning and stuff like that.
And the guy who came up with him, who helped him launch and become this big, now they are one of the largest international franchises, right? Because if there's one thing the U.S. is good at exporting, it's diabetes,
Absolutely,
obesity.
100%.
But was Dave Thomas of Wendy's.
Yeah.
And Wendy's is a franchise. So the only reason you're getting smoked out with your boys and getting a 4 for $4 is because of KFC, because of Kentucky Colonel. Just had to open a,
Well, but again, we love entrepreneur stories and stuff like that, and obviously this is a very successful one the second time around for him. You know what I mean? But that's a great story, and it's amazing when you really start looking at some of these older companies that have been around, especially franchises or whatever, that there were a lot of fingers and a lot of different pies, right? This works this way in business. Look, again, this is you want to know one truth about business that I've learned through my 43 years of existence on this life. And I used to bang against this because I grew up, we talked about Tony Robbins before, I grew up dirt poor. I came from an impoverished family that I don't look like it now, but didn't always know where our next meal was coming from. Or
now you kind of look like it now.
Or we went and killed the chicken that we had that day, right, on the ranch. But you don't, networks and knowing other people, coming across other people, getting opportunities with people, right, there is nothing that can replace it. You can be the smartest person in the world, you can be the best person in the world at what you do, but having a network of people that bring you into projects, that bring you into companies, getting yourself around like-minded people, there is nothing that outweighs it.
Right. And that is one thing I will say about our current kind of conversation or system, if you will, where people are like, oh, unpaid internships, this and that. I'm like, oh my goodness. You're better off getting your folks to give you money to go work for no money than you are going to get a student loan and going to college. You're going to gain so much more because you know people.
Depending on the right environment. You got to get in the right environment. There are a lot of people that take advantage of free labor out there or whatever.
Yep.
But the right and we talk, and one of these shows we'll get around to talking about mentors and how to find mentors and the difference between different types of mentors and when to learn to go to your next mentor, and we'll talk about all that. But you're right, getting with the right people, because that person that finds that thing about you that they really like will introduce you to people at their level, and then you'll come across somebody that's at the next level and they'll introduce you to that, and the next thing you know, you're on that phone call list, that text message list, that group list with people that are up here and dragging you along with them. Because I have learned that about success is successful people want to bring people that they like along with them.
Here's one example we can talk about really quick. Joe Rogan's group of friends, the guys that Joe Rogan put on his podcast. These people went on to start their own podcast, start their own thing. Bert Kreischer he's like, Dr. Drew had him on his show, Loveline. And he said, dude, you need to keep telling this story, The Machine. And it made him I don't know how wealthy he is, but we know his name. And but no, like that is such a true thing because, I just think that a lot of people undervalue building relationships. And I will say this much. I lived in the same place the majority of my life. And when I left there to go to Austin, I left Minnesota to go to Austin. It was weird because I realized the one thing that I was missing, it's beautiful. Austin compared to St. Paul, the suburbs of St. Paul, beautiful. It's warm. The people are so friendly. Well, the locals are friendly. The people who come from out of state are garbage. And that's one thing you adopt really quick in Austin is this mindset of people from the outside are garbage, but you're also from the outside. But the minute my license said Austin on it and my Lincoln had Texas plates, I was like, nah, I'm from here. The rest of y'all are garbage. Don't stay. Leave.
Yeah, that's right. You weren't born in Texas, but you got here as quick as you could. That's all that matters.
Totally. And that's one thing I realized that I was missing was my network. Because when I lived in the burbs of St. Paul, I had a guy for everything. And when my sister and her husband moved back there from where they were living, they're like, we need a real estate agent. I was like, yeah, I got a guy. Mechanic, got a guy. You needed this, you needed that, you need a gutter guy, you need a roof guy. It doesn't matter what kind of guy you need, I got a guy. Because I had lived there for so long, I built this network of people that if I ever needed anything, I always got a friend, okay? This isn't someone I do business with necessarily. It's just a buddy of mine.
Right.
Who can do that, right? You need something welding. My buddy, Terry does a ton of welding, right?
But people do that personally, but for some reason we don't do it professionally.
Right.
And that's what we need to fix. And ultimately, I know this about you as well. That's where we want this podcast to end up. We want this podcast to be that place that people, entrepreneurs, can come on and get not only listen and get value, but interact and get value. You and I want to be that kind of podcast that people call us up and by being on our show, you get that connection with us, with people that listen to us, and that kind of stuff. And that's really where, to me, that really is the heart of this podcast is that wanting to help. To be there for people to grow growth, helping others.
That's what Big Man says. I have other ulterior motives, but I'll keep those to myself. And it rhymes with ka-ching, ka-ching.
Ka-ching, ka-ching. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Every good business needs a little bit of both, right? You know what I mean? I'll fill that one side. You can fill the other side.
Of course. Yeah, totally.
That's the way it is.
You would expect the bald dude with the cowboy hat to be the robber baron in this relationship, but I'm not.
Hey, you know what? I like my bald head.
Of course. But this was good. I think, does that cover everything, Big Man? Do you have anything else you want to complain about
today, right?
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to complain about? Any other comments, nasty remarks?
Other than you, I don't complain about much else. So, and I think I did enough of that today. So,
You sure did. All right.
Folks, as always, remember that we encourage you to interact with this show. If you have a business question, if you have something that you would like us to research and give you our answers on and talk about and that kind of stuff, we would be happy to see them and read them, or at least I would be. I'm not telling you we're going to answer any of them because Danny sometimes just gets really mean about it and that kind of thing. But please comment, like down below, or wherever you may be listening. Subscribe.
And listen, if you are watching this on YouTube and you hate looking at our cherubic faces, you can listen to us wherever podcasts are delivered.
I am very handsome for a large man, just by the way.
I know. My sister always says, he's so cute with his dimple. She's an unbearable human being, but she gave me a net.
Baby blues.
And if you are listening to this on an audio platform, did you know we're on YouTube? You can see our cherubic faces.
Yeah, that's right. So you can get us in all kinds of different ways, is all I'm saying.
That's correct.
All right, Bubba. I appreciate you. We like you. All that kind of stuff, and we'll talk to you next time around. Is that it, Danny?
All right, folks. Bye now.